Hello, so today we are going to look at the last part of the topic, which is forecasting. That is forecast what errors, and we know forecast is to predict, right? Then errors, they are just what mistakes. So forecast errors, we are going to look at mistakes in what prediction or you predicting something, right? So we are familiarized with the demand and what the forecast, right? So demand and forecast. That is it. Okay. So for demand, what do we do? We know the demand is what? The actual value, right, of a particular product. Right? Or before we make any predictions, we make the actual value of the demand. Right? Okay, so we are okay with this. But for the errors, we say the error is equal to your actual value minus your forecast value. Right. So it means the ideal knowledge behind what forecasting is that anytime you predict or anytime you forecast, the error must be what? Equal to zero. It must be equal to zero. It means your prediction must tally with what? The demand or the actual value. Do you get it? Anytime one is greater than the other, it means there is what? Or there is an error. Yes, there is an error. Okay, so this is the formula for calculating an error. And under this forecast errors, we are going to look at three things or three components. We have one to be mean absolute deviation, right? Then we have the second one to be mean squared error. Then the third one to be mean absolute percentage error, right? So we have these three components. These are the things that we are going to look at. Then for mean, you know mean is just like what? Mean is just like summing something up, right? You sum, let's say, numbers up, then you divide it by what? 3. The mean, just like this, okay? Okay. And the absolute here is talking about if in case you subtract, you see, deviation. Deviation here means you have to subtract what? Two things. You are finding how this forecast is deviating from what? The actual value, or how the actual value is deviating from what? The forecast, right? And so that is that particular subtraction, this error becomes what we call deviation, right? So we have the deviation here, okay? Then we have what? Absolute. So it means after subtracting them, if you get negative, you have to find what? The absolute of it, right? So the absolute of it, it means if you get -5, you must find the absolute to give you what? 5, right? Before you can proceed with your calculation. To calculate for mean, so always to start from this, you subtract, you find the absolute, there you find the mean. So uh, we know for the mean absolute deviation that you deviate, right, then you find the absolute, then you do your addition and subtraction. That is it. Then the next one is mean squared what? Error. So for mean squared error, it means your error, right? You start from your right hand side, your error, right? You find the error, which is actual minus forecast, right? Then you square each, right? So after squaring them, you calculate the mean of your solution or the mean of the result, right? So you find error, you square it, then you calculate for the mean, right? And the same thing here. Here too, we are going to calculate for what? The mean absolute percentage error. So you calculate for error, then your error, you find the absolute value, then you represent it in what? Percentage, then you find your mean. Okay, so this one is just like your summation of all the errors, then you divide it by n, right? Then this one is also, you find the error, you square it, then you do your summation. So we say summation of all the errors, but you square them, right? Then you divide it by n. So you see the difference, it's just like the square, right? Then you come here, the mean absolute percentage error. Here you are going to sum the error over the actual value, then you multiply everything by what? 100%. Okay, so you do this one, then you sum it. Okay, so that is it for the three components of forecast errors. So we are going to take a question, one table, then we look at these three components on the same table, because in an examination you solve this one, then you solve this one on the same table using the same figures or values. So let's look at that. Okay, so now let's look at how to solve a question under mean absolute deviation, mean squared error, and mean absolute percentage error. Then we are done. Okay, so you see the question has given us what? The number of years, then the actual demand, right? But before you calculate for mean absolute deviation, mean squared error, and mean absolute percentage error, you have to get what? Your forecast, right? Now, how do you get the forecast? Now, the forecast, you see, it says 2 years, what? It's supposed to be 2 year. So 2 year simple moving average, right? So it means you are supposed to calculate for the 2 year simple moving average here, right? Then when you finish, use that particular forecast to calculate for these three, right? So we say the forecast, our forecast here, and so we are going to use the 2 year simple moving average. 2 year means what? We need what? The past 2 years before we can predict for that current period that we want. So if we take the first year, you see we don't have any two previous years, right? So we can't predict for the first period. Okay. Then when you come to the second period too, we only have one previous year. We don't have two previous years. So you can't predict for the second period. Okay. Then when you come to the third period, you see you have two past period. So you can predict it, right? And so how do you predict for the two past years? That is their summations over what? 2. Okay. So we say the forecast for the third period, right? So F is equal to 310 plus 365 over 2. Okay, so 0.5. Okay, so we have 387.5. Alright, then when we come to week 4, we have the previous 2 years. We have what? 1, 2. Okay, so we have f of 4 equal to 365 plus 395. Okay, then we divide it by 2. So our f of 4 is also equal to 365 plus 395. Divide everything by 2. We have 380 here, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, then for the last part, you also have to use what? The last two, which is 395 and 415. So f of 5 is equal to 395 plus 415 divided by 2. Okay, so 395 plus 415 divided by 2. You have 405. So f of 5 is equal to 405. So we have 405. It means if you want to forecast for, let's say, the 6th week, suppose you have 6th week, it means you were to have what? The week 4 and week 5, right? To forecast for the 6th week, right? Yes. But let's end here. So now we have our forecasted values. Okay. So let's look at our questions here. The first one is mean absolute deviation, right? So we say MAD here. Right. So since we have the forecast here, let's create this one. Okay. So how do we calculate for the mean absolute deviation? The deviation here means what? The subtraction, right? So you have to calculate for the error first. So the error for because there is no forecasted values, it means here too we can't calculate for them, right? So we have to do it for this part. So the actual value minus what? The forecasted value, right? But here we are going to take the, let me write the errors here. Okay, So here we are going to take the absolute value. Yes, because of time, I don't want to calculate for the errors before we take the absolute value. So whilst calculating for the errors, let's take the absolute value straightforward. Okay, so here let's calculate for the error. We have what? 395 minus 337.5, right? Yes, so we have the error to 57.5. Then we come to the fourth one, which is 415 minus 380, and we have 35 here. Then when we come here, we have 450 minus 405, which is 45, right? Okay, then so we are done with the errors. Okay, we are done with the errors. So now looking at the formula for mean absolute deviation, it says mean absolute deviation. It says we have to add the errors divided by what? The n, right? Yeah, so we have the errors here. We are going to add them. Then we divide it by 1, 2, 3, the number of errors, right? So we have MAD equal to the summation of the first one is 57.5 plus 35 plus what? 45. Then we divide everything by 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yes. So we have 7.5 plus 35. So 7.5 plus 35 plus what? 45. Okay. Divided by 3. Okay. So we have 45.83. So our mean absolute deviation is equal to 45.83. Nice. So this is the answer for mean absolute what? Deviation. That is 45.83. Let me write the answers here. So the mean absolute deviation is equal to 45.83. Okay, so we are done with the first question. Now let's move on to the second question. The second question is what? Mean squared what? Error. But we are already having the errors on our table here, right? So all that we need to do is to square the errors, then we proceed to calculate for the mean, right? So now let me write errors squared. Okay, so we are going to square all these what values. It means because we don't have any value here, here is also empty. So we are going to do it for the last three parts. So we have 57.5 squared, right? So that one will give us 3,306. 306.25. Okay, then we have 35 squared. That is 1,225. Okay, then we have 45 squared. Okay, and that one is 2,025. 2,025. Okay, yes. So now we have all the errors squared, right? All the errors squared. Now what do? We are going to calculate for the error squared just like what we have done here, right? So because we are done with the ME, let's clean that one. Then we pick this one. Okay, so MSE is equal to the summation of the errors squared over n, right? So we are going to sum everything. Then yes, we are going to sum everything, all the errors squared. Then we divide it by n, right? So we have MSE is equal to the summation of. So for the errors, we have already squared it. So we are just going to put the values there. So it's going to be 3,000 306.25 plus 1,225 plus 2,025. Okay, divided by 1, 2, 3. So divided by 3. So our MSE is equal to. So now let's sum everything. We have 3,306, right? 0.25 plus 1,225 plus 2,025 divided by 3. So we have 2,185, 2,185.42. Okay. Yes. So this is the mean squared what? Error. This is the mean squared error. So just know the formula. If you know the formula, you know what to do. Okay. So we have the error squared. And so after the error squared, you sum everything, then you divide it by the number of what error squared, and you get your mean squared error. Okay. So now we are done with the second part or the second question. We are left with the last question. Okay. So the mean squared error here is equal to 2,185.42. Okay, then let's move on to the last one, which is the MAPE. Right. So for the MAPE, what did we say? We said the formula is MAPE. The formula is what? Your summation of error over your actual, then you multiply it by 100%. And because it is mean, you divide it by what? N. Okay. Yes. So now we are going to take each row. We take the error. Yes, these are the errors. So we take the errors, then we divide it by what? The actual value of that particular row, right? Then we multiply it by 100. Okay. Yes, and that will give us whatever we have here. Okay, and at the end we sum them and divide it by n. Okay, so for let's create the column here. So we have the error over actual. So that will be the last column. So let me close it. So for the first week, we don't have first and second years, we don't have anything there. So let's move on to the third week. So for the third week, you see the formula says error over what? Actual value times 100. Let me bring the percentage. Okay, right. Yeah, so the third year we have what? The error, which is 57.5 over 395. So we have this is the third year. So the error is 57.5 over 395 times what? 100 and the 100%. Okay. So what are we getting? We have 57.5 divided by 395. Okay. Multiplying 100. We have 14.56%. Right. So when we come here, we have 14.56%. Okay. Then we come to the the fourth year. So for the fourth year, we have what's the error? That's 35 over 415. So we have 35 over 415 multiplying 100 what? Percent. Okay. So we have 35 divided by 415 multiplying 100%. We have 8.43%. We have 8.43%. Okay. So that is for the fourth year. Then let's move on to the fifth year. So for the fifth year, what's the error? There is an error. So we have 45 over 450. We have 45 over 450 times what? 100. So we are going to get 10%. 10 goes into 100, so we are going to get 10%. So we have what? 10% for the last part. Then don't forget the formula. The formula says our error over actual. Don't forget to sum them. Then you multiply it by 100%. Then you divide it by n. So now we are done with the error over actual times 100%. That is why we are having a percentage here. So now we are left with the addition or the summation. So we just have to add everything, then we divide it by the number, which is 3. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to clean the calculations since we are done with it, so that I just perform the last calculation. So the summation, we have summation of 14.56% plus 8.43% plus 10%. Okay, then we close the whole bracket. We divide it by what? 3. Okay, so let's sum the percentages. The percentages, we have 14.56 plus 8.43, then plus 10. So we have 32.99%. So we have 32.99% divided by 3. Okay. So we divide our results by 3. We have 10.996. So here, if you run this one to this one, you are going to get 11%. Okay. So it means our last question, which is the MAPE, is 11%. Okay. It's 11%. Okay. Then we are done. So this is how to calculate for forecast with errors. Okay. Yes. If you don't understand anything, you can ask your question under the comment section, and I'll just come there to answer you. Then also, if maybe you don't understand anything, you can re-watch it. Then any of our team members will also attempt to help you as well. Okay, so this brings us to the end of what today's topic, that is forecasting. Please kindly subscribe, you like our videos, and also you comment, you share to your friends so that they can all benefit and we all grow together. Thank you very much, and see you the next time.